Well, hey, my preschool friends, it is Jeff, and I'm really excited to be with you for a learning center time called It's Showtime. Now, we're going to put on a little show today, and for that, you're going to need some friends. Now, sometimes we act this out, like last week we acted it out, but this week I brought with me some of our fun puppets from the preschool room. And so what you're going to need are some puppets or some stuffed animals from your room to come act out our Bible story today. Now, I've got three. I've got one to be Saul. We heard about him in our Bible story earlier this week. So here's Saul. I've got one to be some bad guys. Look at this eagle. He looks a little bad. And then I've got one to be a friend of Saul's. I've got this nice little owl here. So you can pause this video and go get yourself 3 stuffed animals or puppets. And then when you're all ready, come and unfreeze me and we'll have some fun telling our Bible story together. Okay, go get your stuff. All right, and I'm going to guess that I am unfrozen now because we are going to tell our Bible story from earlier this week. Now, before we do that, let's remember our big idea, and that's this. My church helps me, and I help my church. Say it with me, guys. My church helps me, and I help my church. That's true. My church helps me, and I help my church, and your church helps you, and you get to help your church, too. You are not too little to be a part of the church and to help others while you're here. All right, now, we need to remember our Bible story from our true Bible story from our very true Bible. And to do that, I've got some of my friends. So I'm going to retell this story. And what I want you to do with your animals is to act it out. And I'm going to act it out with my friends right here too. Okay? Here we go. Now I'm going to get Saul. He's the beginning of our story. I don't know that Saul was an elephant. But last week we heard about Saul. He was someone who did not like Jesus followers very much. No, he did not at all. He did not like Christians. He tried to arrest them and have them thrown in jail. And one day he was on his way to a city called Damascus. Not the Damascus that's close to us, a Damascus on the other side of the world. In fact, the Damascus that's close to us is named after the city in the Bible story. So Saul was on his way to Damascus, but a really bright light shone on him. Oh, I'm going to cover his eyes. It's so bright. And the light blinded Saul. But then Saul went into the city, and a helper laid his hands on him and opened his eyes again, and he could see again. And Saul decided to become a follower of Jesus. Yep, he is. So he's a follower of Jesus now, and now we're going to pick up our new part of the Bible story. Because what Saul did is he went all around town, and he told people the good news that Jesus is alive and is the Son of God. So he'd go somewhere and say, Jesus is alive. And then he'd go somewhere else and say, Jesus is alive. And then he'd go somewhere else and say, Jesus is alive. And then he'd go right up to you and say, Jesus is alive. He would do that all over town. Now, that was good news for everyone to hear, but there were some people in town who did not want to hear that good news at all because they didn't believe it was true. Like that. And they were pretty bad guys. And they decided they had to do something about Saul. And so they decided what they were going to do is they were going to wait for him to try to leave town. And when they saw him leaving town, they were going to get him. And they were going to be super mean to him. They were going to hurt him really bad. Like that. In fact, they even wanted to kill Saul. Saul didn't want to hear that. So these guys were super bad, and they were waiting for Saul to try to leave town. Now, the good news for Saul is that, first of all, he heard the news. He heard the rumor that there were some mean people that are going to try to be mean to him. And there was some better news for Saul because he had friends, new friends in town who believed in Jesus. They were Jesus followers. And those friends wanted to help him. They wanted to be his helper. So they thought about it. Now, this guy is an owl, but the elephant's too big. He can't pick him up and fly him anywhere. So here's what they did. They got a basket, and they tied a rope on it. And then they took Saul, they put him in that big basket, and they lowered him down until he was on the ground, and then he could run away without the bad guys getting a hold of him. What a great Bible story. Now think for a second, what would have happened if Saul didn't have any helpers? Well, I don't know exactly what would have happened, but I'm guessing these mean guys would have got a hold of him and they would have whacked him around. And that would have been really sad. Saul could have been hurt or killed. And we know from reading the rest of the Bible that Saul, he went on to travel to lots and lots and lots of different cities and countries and tell lots of people the good news that Jesus is the Son of God and that Jesus is alive. And he went on to write some of the rest of our Bibles. Saul went on to write 13 books and letters that we have in our Bibles today, 2,000 years later. It's amazing. If Saul didn't have those helpers, I don't know what would have happened, but it's not as good as the plan that God had. I'm so glad that God sent Saul helpers. Well, remember, kids, that my church helps me, and I help my church. And it's the same for you. Your church helps you, and you get to help your church too. We get to pray for each other. We get to be friends of each other's and play together. And we get to share with each other. Kids, I love you. I miss you. And I can't wait to see you next week to learn more true stories from the Bible. Bye, everybody.